Hello, everyone, and welcome to DM Talk. Where has the time gone? Episode 50. Glad everyone's here tonight. DM Talk, where I am the DM for Playerole and I talk about games and so forth. Tonight's open forum. We talk about anything. So, before I talk about, I set up a little something, but if anybody wants to jump in and chat about anything, let me know. I just want to know that Season 3, Campaign 3, is just around the corner, and Session 0 of Campaign 3 is 2 weeks from now. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because I want to go from one season to another, and there's a little bit of a break, but I don't want to give too much of a break. I just want to keep on trucking, and I love this so much, and just continue doing it, and I just love to tell stories and so forth. And Season 3 is going to be grittier. I do have an advisory out here. I do not want any young kids or anything like that watching the content. Not saying that there'll be anything nasty, but there's a lot of blood and a lot of violent things that will occur in Season 3 that I do not want any young eyes or ears watching. That being said, let's continue with DM Talk because I'm super excited. And again, I got an error on the streaming. Let me check and see what's going on. Oh, nothing's wrong. So it's not, YouTube is not correct, using the correct data. I hope it is, but check it out after I'm done. Either way, let's talk about DMing in general. Everything, I'm gonna go over 50 episodes in a quick way. Basically, what is DMing? Dungeon Master. What is game mastering? What is storytelling? Every game system has its own little shit, like DMing, stuff like that. All right, so what do you need? You need pen and paper, digital format. All those things are important. Make your character, have people around your table, bring everything to your table. Make sure you bring the necessities that make up gaming, the dice. You, of course, because that is the biggest problem in role-playing, is people being present, because everybody has their own thing. And I get that. I understand out of everything, people have their own situations. It's called life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes there are people that are jerks, players that are jerks, and they don't show up at the table. That being said, once you have everybody, you're good to go, you're behind the screen, you tell a story. You would think that's it. Well, no, there's rules and books that you have to read beforehand and to understand the game and how it works, how the mechanics of combat and how things work. If you're using magic, depending if a player is being a certain class, as a DM, you have to know those things. But those are very minor. To me, they are. Knowing the classes in the world is important, yes, but they're minor because if you know all the game mechanics, first off, and you don't have a story, or can't deliver a story, can't interact with the players, then that's a problem. And I mentioned that earlier on in DM Talk. The story, the strength of the story is you. To deliver that story, to tell that story in any way, fashion, you tell that story. And the books that you buy at the store from WotC or White Wolf or whatever system you decide to run can tell you how to run it. but it's really loosey-goosey because you are the director. The players are the actors. And that's what you do. That's the way I do it. That's the best way to do it. Because if you know all the mechanics of the game and you can't deliver a strong story, then you might as well just play Warhammer 40K or play a tabletop. Just tabletop combat-oriented game. Because that's what you know. Not everyone can deliver a story. And telling the story is much different than mechanics, and boom, you have nothing. Gonna make sure that I am on. Yes, I am. All right, so what does that mean? So you have your story. I mentioned that earlier on in the season. You have your story, you have your players, you're prepared, right? No. You do have to know the mechanics. Let me stop right here. I'm not saying I'm anti-mechanics. No. I'm not saying that at all. That's why there's a DM screen. That's why you have your notes. That's why you have, okay, if somebody's charmed, what happens? If someone who's charmed has advantage on social ability checks. You would need to know that. That's a mechanic. Part of a mechanic in the game. So you have a DM screen, you have your things that you need to know. And that's important in any game or fashion. So what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? A lot. Because once you have everything together, then you run the game, right? No. It's not like that. Because I just said you have your story. You have to know how to play the game, how to interact with your players, how to have that connection. If a player decides, hey, I want to jump off into another way, the other door that you decided to put there in the story, and all of a sudden all the players say, hey, Johnny's going to door number 3. And you didn't have anything behind door number 3, well, it's your fault as a storyteller or DM. You got to be prepared. Preparation is the key. For those of you who just jumped in, I'm just talking about, this is the 50th episode of DM Talk, and I'm going over everything from all the episodes, what we talked about, little by little, leading up to this. And preparation. Game mechanics, that's important, but not as important as delivering the story. Like I said, you could be the best, know all the rules, all the mechanics, and if you can't deliver a story, you can't connect to your players. It doesn't matter what you do. You might as well play Monopoly or a board game, because it's not going to work. You can be game mechanic. You could be the best at knowing all the flipping rules, and if you don't have a story, what good is all those rules? So that's why they have a DM screen. I use it. And not everything is going to be dictated by the rules. That's the way if I'm going to show you how to DM, how to tell a story, I will do that. I will show you how to do it. But I'm also going to tell you, okay, if the rule does this, and the player comes around the rule, as a DM, you're going to have to jump around. Yeah. And I'm not talking jump around. I'm just saying have that connection with the player and role play. Get into your character. I'm not saying for you to be like a critical role. I mean, it's great for you if you can do it, but you don't have to go that extreme. But if you're the DM, tell the story. That's what role playing is. What good is all the rules if you can't tell a story? And if I'm going to teach somebody how to role play, I'm going to teach them how to tell a story if you're going to be behind the screen. and then go from there. The game mechanics, yes, are important, but not as important as telling the story. And if players start going here and there, the DM's guide there will tell you. You are a director. They are the actors. You don't have to railroad. You don't. It's okay to do that a little bit to keep people on track of your story. But if they want to go and explore, let them. But you have to be prepared. Preparation is the key. And I talked about that in an earlier episode. If you're not prepared, your game is going to blow up. You just have to come up with something. That's why most of role-playing is improv. You could have your notes, you could have everything written, and if somebody goes off the track, non-railroad, which I love doing, improv. I love the improv too. Come up with something. You're going to have to connect with that player. So moving on. Players also have to know their characters. I talked about this early on as well. If I'm gonna go join Joe's group and he's DM, if I'm playing a paladin, I better know how to run that character. That's part of being a player. Read up, do it. Divine Strike. If you don't know what that is, put up your hands. Don't play a character. Just play a fighter. There's nothing wrong to say, hey, look, I'm playing a druid for the first time. Joe, do you mind? I'm not new role playing, but this is my new class. Playing a druid. You have a discussion with your DM, and you go from there. You have a discussion. That's why it's important to have a session 0 before the campaign. I read a lot of forums where people do not like session 0s, and I also read that they do. So it's kind of 50-50. Is it important? Absolutely. Is it part of role-playing in a game? No. Session 0 is important to deliver to your players what you want to convey in your story, who you are as a DM, etc. But is it needed? To me, yes. To other people, they may not like it. They can just play it. But the reason why there are problems in role-playing in general, when you have a game, is because in the session 0, you say, okay, look, here's my session 0. Session 0, starting now. What do they like? What do they expect out of me as a DM? I love my games are full of story. I get into character. Your NPCs are going to be in the character. I do not like. It's kind of hard to try not to say do not. Just say. Let me try to reword it. Well, I would tell them if it's your scene, don't try to jump on Tony's scene. If Stacy is talking to someone else and it's Tony's scene, it's his time, everyone be quiet, give that person the spotlight. And of course, there are your tropes. There's different things that players do. You have the guy who loves to get the spotlight. You have the person who wants to be this. There's just so many things that drive a DM crazy because players do these things that are off the wall that you have to come up out of your head. And being prepared, that's all part of it. You're going to have to improv. And I say that a lot because improv is very important to a game. What is important about it? Well, excuse me a second, I'm looking at my numbers. And everything looks good so far. And it's good. Anyway, sorry. So it happens, you're streaming, so making sure everything's good. Okay. Got an error, so we're good. Okay, so you are in front of an audience and you start doing these things, right? You start managing to do different voices and stuff, get in the character. Those are the things that make up role playing. And that's what we talked about early on in the season in DM Talk. We talked about improvs. We talk about getting into character, portraying your character, projecting that energy. I feed off my players. So if a player doesn't give me any energy, I'll give energy, but it's not going to be as big. What I mean by that is if somebody's excited and getting into their character, I'm going to get just excited and boom, boom, and start getting into it. That's what I mean. You need to understand that not everybody is going to be like that. So know your players. Preparation, know your players. Be ready. Railroading. That's a big thing. The big R, railroading. There's going to be people that are going to jump in and out. Right? And railroading is one of the things that, the sprinkle the cookies or whatever, the trail, so the players can get back on track. There's nothing wrong with that. I agree with that. You need to do it. A lot of the big DMs that stream, I know a lot of DMs that they're going to railroad. And there's people who want to be led. There are players that want to be led. There's players that don't want to. They want to figure things out on their own. And that's completely right. That's completely fine. As a group, you got to find what's good in players. That combination is a party. And that's what you need to do. That's why you have a session zero. Have your session zero, be prepared, know your system you're playing, know your story. I'm not saying write a book. I'm just saying write the format that you want. And the world building comes along with everything. Little by little, the players get to see your world, but they are the spotlight, not you. They're the spotlight. And that's what I love about role-playing, and that's what I want to convey, that I conveyed in each episode. I tried to convey in each episode. Tonight was open forum, and if you have any questions or anybody have any questions, put it down in the comments, and we'll spin. We'll do something else, and we'll talk about something else. I love to talk. I can be here all night talking, but I do have a schedule. I want to try to keep that schedule. Anyways, let's move forward. Nothing's in the chat, so we're going to go move forward. Role playing. That's a big key. I cannot stress that you can be a war gamer. You can have minis. My best friend George Christopher, who plays Mavic, he always sits here on my right, and he's my best friend. And let me tell you, he loves visuals. He loves descriptions and stuff. Theater of the mind is kind of iffy with him. He loves miniatures, moving stuff around, and that's fine. If you want to use digital format and have minis, fine. Earlier on in the season, in season 1, and earlier in season 2, first half of season 2, I use a lot of minis. I made my own backgrounds and houses and stuff I painted, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. I am not saying that digital is not a lot of work, because it is a lot of work. If you have different programs, I use Sigil, and Sigil unfortunately is going bye-bye, which breaks my heart because I did like it. I'm probably the only one in the world that used it. I loved it. So it's me, you know. I say what you will about certain things. I love to use digital format. I like using AI. I like using AI to create pictures and stuff, but it is not, the description is mine, but the picture is no one's. It is computer generated, and it'll be out there. That being said, it is what it is. Either you're for AI or not AI. I use it just for pictures to give a more impactful situation. If they're going to go into a town, I'll have a picture of the town, but I describe the town, and then I'll have it up in the background so they'll just remember it and see it and so forth. And I do that for some of my players and so forth because they like to see that. They want to see that form of role playing. A lot of people gotta understand theater of the mind. I'm old school. I love theater of the mind, and I really talked about this earlier on in the earlier episodes. Theater of the mind is by far, to me, the best because you're describing the world. If you're in a broken path, and you see a field, you describe to the players, what are you going to do? And the players are going to be like, oh yeah, pull my sword out, or I move cautiously towards the field. Those are the things that you got to do as a DM. How boring would it be if you sit playing somebody's game and the person's like, you enter a room, you look around, you see nothing. Make a perception roll. Okay. What are you doing? Just an example. I'm being goofy, but that's just an example, a bad example of. Yeah, I've been in games when I was younger guy, and been in a lot of games with a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of shitty DMs. I've seen a lot of shitty people who read a script. There's nothing wrong in reading a scene. My buddy Dennis does it from Canada, but he does it to perfection. He reads it. He reads it with emotion. If you're going to read something off of a book, if you have a script, the cabin exploded. Give some emotion. The cabin exploded. The cabin exploded. Don't just say, the cabin exploded. What are you doing? Just give emotion. That's part of role playing. That's all part of role playing. Why is my clock on the computer wrong? One says 10:59, the other I got 5 more minutes. Well, I have 5 more minutes, and I'm going to use that 5 more minutes. I'm not going to go by the time because I love you all. Anyways, You give that emotion. You deliver it to your audience. Think of your players as your audience, and you deliver it to them, and that's what they want. Not only as a DM, be prepared. Have your dice, have your minis, have your if you have electronics and you're going to use music, be prepared. Preparation is the key. Know your game mechanics, even though to me it's an integral part of the game, but the story supersedes everything. Because if you can't tell a story for shit, you're definitely not gonna do it. You're not. Because your combat is gonna be great, but your story is gonna be, and to me, you gotta have a balance of both. Have your game mechanics, have your story hand in hand, be prepared, and deliver that. Now, when it comes to the overview of all 50 episodes from DM Talk was this. To be a good DM, remember to have communication with your players. Be respectful, treat everybody fairly, and have fun. Have fun. If you are stressful because they killed your big bad, so what? You'll have another one. Or the big bad comes back later on in the episode to deliver an evil, whatever. To deliver whatever. I'm just having fun. I really am. See how I'm having fun with y'all? Either way, the big bad delivers something bad to the players. And when you have that connection with your players, when you have fun with your players, that's the important thing. It's not about being perfect. It's about having fun. Because overall, this is role play. It's the extension of your imagination. So, again, be prepared, have fun, enjoy the game. Because it's Dungeons and Dragons, we all love it. Despite of what anybody thinks. We are a community of role players. We are a community of people that connect with each other, and that's what role playing is. That's what role playing is, folks. If the overview of all 50 episodes from DM Talk, me showing you how to deliver, how to compromise with your party, and how to have fun with your party. Yes, yeah, players are going to have shenanigans here and there, but you know what the fun thing is? The fun thing is that seeing them enjoy themselves, getting into their character, that's what role playing is. That's the time when you sit back and watch everybody role play. I've had that many times when you sit back for 20 minutes or so, or whatever it is, watch them role play, understanding that, man, you did your job. And smile. Because those times, there's not very many, but when it happens, you'll know, and you'll sit back and you'll get goosebumps, because it's great. I do. And I urge everybody to stay with us at Playerole. I'm not big, but I am growing. Everybody in Playerole, my guys, my gal, Colleen, who plays, she has fun as well. We have a good time. Enjoy the game. This is the last episode. I'll be doing Creatures of the Realm. I'll be going over the monster manual from A to Z, going over different creatures, and go from there. And we're going to have a lot of fun. That being said, I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. Good night, and thank you for watching. And 50 episodes, man, it's just It's wonderful. It's an achievement. I love it. All right, I had a disconnection in Prism. See you guys. Have a good night.